From the land of conjurers, flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever and whenever you're listening to this program. I am Johnny the Frost, and joining me, as always, is the medium Jenny Lee. How are you doing, Jenny?
I'm here, and that's about as good as I can do today.
Well, I would say, usually I started asking you about now if you want to get weird, but it's been kind of a weird day already.
It's been a weird week. It's been a
No,
weird start to
it's been a weird
2025.
start to the year. I mean,
Yes.
we're going to get into the news a little bit, and like, I almost don't even know where to start because it's just, it's
I
been
think that
insane.
our prediction show was right on. We were all like, "Ee."
There's so much going on. I don't even know where to start.
2025.
And it's all got its ways that it's weirdly connected. But welcome in everyone.
Yeah, hi
So
everybody.
excited to see you guys here. Another Thursday night, and it's another Witching Hours. We're excited to have
Heck
you
yeah.
here, and we're excited for our guest tonight, Rob Gutro, and to talk a little bit about some pet mediumship and paranormal ghost adventures.
We
So
have
we'll
a
get into
there's
that
a
in a little
lot of
bit.
things to talk about.
A lot of things to talk
Yes.
about. So we got a packed. I mean,
Mhm.
we usually fill up the 2 hours pretty easy. We talk about that all the time, but tonight's gonna be a packed 2 hours for sure.
Yes.
So getting ready for that. I do just want to say as we get going tonight, if you haven't seen our calendar up on Discord, and I think I have the Discord problems fixed in chat, so
That's so,
hopefully the
Keisha.
Discord link is working. And if it's
One
not, then
one out of 10 things are fixed.
oh, if it's not working, then I don't know. I'll have to hire my own IT guy or something. Um, so next week we're gonna have James Rink on the program. We're going to talk about super soldiers and super black government projects, which I think might be timely. We haven't talked about that stuff a whole lot on this show.
Yeah.
We've done the UFOs, we've done the Bigfoots, we do a lot of mediumship, we do a lot of spirituality. We've done a lot of those things, but we haven't really got into uh, black project government. And I think now is probably a good of a time to start discussing that as any. And we'll talk a little bit more about that with the news today. On the 23rd, we're going to have Barbara Worsley on. We're going to talk about spirituality and dragons. And then we're going to have Charlie Raymond on to talk about Bigfoot, I think out in Kentucky,
Ooh.
out on 1:30 on January 30th. So that'll round out our month of January. So we got lots of good shows coming to you guys this month and off into 2025 and this new year. All right, Jenny, are you ready to get to some news?
Yes, sir.
You did some of my searches for me this week, so I'm using some of your stuff.
Oh, nice,
Baby
'cause,
saber tooth.
I don't actually read the articles, I just see the
You just
headline.
throw it in there. Well, I know that you don't because
So
this
I'm glad
first
that
one I
you
had to
read them.
find. This other one I had to find a different article for because what you posted was a National Geographic article, which you have to have a subscription for. So I know you didn't have the paywall for that. But baby saber-tooth cat mummy found in Siberia with intact skin, fur, and toes. A mummified Ice Age cub from Siberia is the first known mummy of a saber-toothed cat, and its
You're
discovery
so
is
cute.
generating ripples of excitement among paleontologists. The mummy's exceptional preservation provided the first view of what saber-toothed cats look like. Written in its soft tissues are clues about where the cat's muscles are bulkiest and how that may have shaped its hunting style. Abundant fur and mummified flesh covered the partial corpse, and its face, forelimbs, and torso were nearly intact. Scientists reported Thursday in the journal Scientific Reports. The cub's dark brown fur was short but very thick, measuring 1.2 inches long. Its fur was also surprisingly soft. It's a fantastic feeling to see with your own eyes the life appearance of a long extinct animal, said
Heck
Alexei
yeah.
Lopatin, especially when it comes to such an interesting predator as the saber-toothed cat.
And what a
Uh,
perfect article to have on tonight with
yeah.
pet medium.
So the mummy is the first evidence from Asia of the saber-toothed cat species. The fossilized bones were previously found at sites in the Netherlands, and in Yukon. Other types of frozen ice age mummies, such as woolly rhinos and mammoths, are known from the Siberian region. But mummified cats, by comparison, are extremely rare. Before this discovery, there were just 2 known cat mummies, both cubs of the cave lion Panthera. Now we have added the saber tooth to the list. The other one were modern lions. So there we go.
Pretty
So
cool.
maybe we can make some new saber tooth tigers.
I don't know about that, but the baby's pretty cute.
An alien signal hit Earth in 2022. Astronomers have now found its original source. This is another one straight from Medium
Yes,
Simulating.
that I also didn't read.
Astronomers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, have made significant progress in understanding the origins of fast radio bursts, mysterious cosmic phenomena that emit intense bursts of radio wave signals for milliseconds. The first FRB was discovered in 2007. We've kind of talked about those before, but in a groundbreaking study published in Nature, the MIT focused on the one from 2022 and detected that it came from a galaxy approximately 200 million light years away.
Wow.
By analyzing this, they were able to pinpoint the burst origin much closer to its source than previously thought. The findings suggest that it erupted from within 10,000 kilometers of a rotating neutron star, specifically from its magnetosphere, an area characterized by extreme magnetic fields. So, probably emitted from a neutron star.
Mm.
200
Not
million
as
miles
exciting as I thought it would be. But
Well, why'd you share it then?
Because the article apparently was clickbait. Alien signal.
I think it's exciting.
No,
we got a radio signal from a neutron star 200 million
that's cool.
light years away.
I wonder how long ago that signal was expelled from the star for it to take that long to get here.
200 million years ago.
But that's light years. Does
true.
sound travel the same speed as light?
Well, it's a radio, so it's radio waves. How fast do radio waves travel?
I don't know. CMC, do you know this answer?
It's a radio wave. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good idea. A good question, actually. Radio waves. I'm not sure the speed of radio waves, and how that would work, because that would be interesting. I wouldn't mind getting some numbers for that. All right, so there we go. But it's good to know, because I think we actually reported on the story when it happened, when they were talking about receiving it. So
radio wave
at the speed of light. Okay, that's what I was wondering. It almost would have to, because if not, it would just never get here from that far. Like the universe would.
CMC. I knew that he would have an answer. All right, what's the next story?
So there you go. 200 million years ago, Jimmy.
Yes.
That's older than the saber-toothed cat.
By a lot.
Yeah. A man who died in the Cybertruck explosion, identified as Green Beret and Bronze Star recipient. So we didn't get into it this week, and I try sometimes to stay away from these bad news stories, but
we were talking about it. Plus, we were talking about it in the Discord.
Yeah. So Matthew Livelsberger, an active Green Beret, died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound before the Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas on New Year's Day. His phone was recovered from the explosion's aftermath and contained notes saying the U.S. was headed towards collapse, and that Livelsberger chose to carry out the act because he wanted to cleanse his mind of the brothers he's lost and relive the burden of the lives that he took.
Mm.
The notes also said the act was not a terrorist attack and was instead a wake-up call, adding Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. He was a member of the Army's Green Beret Special Forces Unit at Fort Bragg, was deployed twice to Afghanistan, and was on leave from Germany at the time of the explosion. He was awarded 5 Bronze Stars during his service, including one with the Valor Device for courage under fire. a
Wow.
combat infantry badge, and an Army Commendation Medal with Valor. So this what we were talking about in Discord is the podcast that's making its rounds now, where an email had been sent to Sam Shoemate, a retired U.S. Army intelligence officer, and in that email, Livelsberger explains that about the drone sightings in New
Mhm.
Jersey, and said that they were Chinese uh, gravitic propulsion systems that are being launched from Chinese submarines off the east coast of the United States. He said that they're posing an extreme national security threat. The email also contained information about 2019 U.S. airstrikes in Afghanistan that allegedly caused significant civilian casualties, and essentially was alluding to the fact that the United States could be covering up war crimes in Afghanistan, which, interestingly enough, happened under the incoming president's last term, which is one of the reasons why I don't know. This is a really interesting story because on one hand, uh, we have a decorated military veteran,
Mhm.
and but on the other hand, we have someone who, from what the news is coming out, definitely struggled with some effects of serving.
Mhm.
Um, but in his emails, gave some very interesting information that could indeed put someone's life in danger.
Who wasn't weren't the emails aren't there isn't there speculation that those emails are not what we think they
Not
are?
now, not now.
We know for sure
They've
that
been,
they are.
yeah, the government came out. The government came out and said the emails were right.
Mm.
The police force. And
Well, the government.
there was another YouTuber who had come out with that video you were talking about that was saying essentially that the people were lying on the podcast that the email didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
he came out with a video that CMC had posted in Discord
Mhm.
with him apologizing because someone
Oh,
was able to
okay.
prove,
That guy was apologizing. Okay. I
yeah,
think I was
yeah,
confused thinking that it was
that he
the other one.
that he wasn't lying. So the email
Okay.
exists. The words in the
Okay.
email exist.
Yeah.
Now, does that make the words in the email true?
Yeah. No, not necessarily.
Yeah. Um, no, not necessarily. And if someone is having, some kind of mental health episode, you don't know. But
Yeah.
I will say, um, to talk about those things specifically seem oddly specific to bring up, and especially things that he would have had personal significance, personal connection to. He served in
Mhm.
Afghanistan
Yeah.
in 2019, and he talked about war crimes that took place in Afghanistan in 2019. Who else would be the better to know,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? Like, I was in Iraq in 2010. I can tell you some things that happened in Iraq in 2010.
Yeah.
And just because, whatever is diagnosed from veterans doesn't mean that should completely trump anything they say, which I
Yeah,
think that's my
exactly.
problem with the military, with the media reporting of that this week is like, oh, well, he pretty much admitted to having PTSD. So that means that he was just a raving lunatic. Well,
No.
he also
E
blows up a Cybertruck. So maybe, you know what I mean?
everybody's got PTSD.
Yeah. And because it happened under the previous administration and the incoming administration, putting out that information, because essentially what he said is that he was being tracked and that they weren't going to let him live. And that's why he sent off the email.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. It'll be
And
interesting to
then
follow one.
and then he dies.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
However,
Anyway.
the reason
Mm.
I included that in the news tonight is because next week we're going to have James Rink on,
Yeah.
and there was a couple things that, well, his specialty is super soldiers,
Yeah.
and it's been interesting for a while to talk about some of the things that happened to the U.S. military and things that have been done to the U.S. military. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to be curious next week to kind of bring this up with him and see if there's any connections with any of the things that he's
Yeah,
written about, talked about,
for
the
sure.
drones, the drones, the this story in particular. So, if this story has you intrigued, if you've been kind of following along with this, then maybe we can talk to James next week and get some more information on that. So there we go.
Yep. Sounds good.
And that was the news.
What a hodgepodge of things this week. Cute kitty cat, not really an alien signal, and a terrible, horrible story about.
Well, it's just
hard to talk
a continuation of 2025's terrible, horrible. It's a no good, Alexander's
no good,
terrible,
very,
horrible. No
good, very bad day. Yeah.
We were talking right before the show with our guest tonight. The city that we're close to has been out of water the whole week. Like just no water, everything's shut down. We have the thing that happened in Las Vegas. We had the thing that happened in New Orleans. We got drones all over the place.
There was the huge earthquake in Tibet.
And the fires in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
I don't know if have you been able to keep up with that, Jenny?
Yes.
Like tens of thousands of structures are gone. And they just keep spreading. Los Angeles is out of water.
And
they're trying to fight these fires, and they're out of. Well, that's what I'm saying. They're trying to fight the fires, and they're having to bring in tanks of water from. Like they literally can't fight the fires.
Well, the ocean's right there. But anyway, let's talk about our guest tonight. Yeah. Yes.
All right, here we go. You guys ready?
Yes.
Rob Gutro is a best-selling and award-winning author, paranormal investigator, and medium with inspired ghost tracking. Since he was a teen, he could receive messages from ghosts or spirits. In 2005, Rob's late puppy passed, and he enabled Rob to communicate with pets. The knowledge inspired him to write his first book in hopes of bringing understanding and comfort to grieving pet parents. As a meteorologist in his career job, he also provides scientific explanations about how energy is the baseline for the afterlife and the medium that entities use to communicate. He has 3 series of books: Ghosts and Spirits, Pets in the Afterlife, and Ghosts on a Medium's Vacation. His books also explain the difference between a ghost and a spirit and how they communicate with the living. His books are available on Amazon in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Rob participates in private paranormal investigations, helps human ghosts cross over, and has provided countless messages from people or pets as ghosts or spirits. He even lived in a haunted house many years ago. He provides pet readings for a small fee, and he gives fundraising lectures for animal rescues to teach people how pet spirits communicate. Please welcome to the show, Rob Gutro. How are you doing, Rob?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
we're glad to have you on. And I'm sorry we had so pessimistic before we brought you on tonight. Usually we have fun on the weird news. Tonight things are a little more serious, but we're glad to have you on, and we're glad to talk about all this stuff. I mean, man, like I said, we're going to have a packed 2 hours tonight, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Me too.
All right. I guess we'll start where, the easiest place to start, and that's at the beginning. I talked about in your bio that this started happening when you were a child, but when did you realize that you were able, and how did you realize you were able to communicate with the other side?
It was kind of a shock to me, really, when I was a teenager. I was 13, and my grandfather, who I saw at his wake in December, appeared to me in full color in July of the following year. And I gave him 2 seconds before I grabbed the dog and ran outside.
So you saw him with your eyes?
I did. I did. It's very rare for me to see spirits crossed over or earthbound ghosts, but he was the first one. That was a wake-up call to me.
Wow. So at the time, it was terrifying.
Oh, gotcha.
But over time, have you been able to communicate with him again and you never saw him again or talked to him again after that?
No. One thing I've learned is that if a spirit who passed over will appear to you once and they scare you, they won't come back. Because
I have the same thing happen to me, Rob. My brother passed away, and he tried to come and visit me the day after, and I told him I wasn't ready. So it took a long time for him to come back. So yeah, I kind of have a similar story.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he finally did, though. He was able to come
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
Okay.
I have communicated with them and had some experiences, but yeah, it totally the same kind of thing. And I guess, yeah, that's interesting because I don't think I'd had anybody else have that experience like I did.
Well, look at that. We're kindred spirits.
We are. We scared off our loved ones when they were trying to say hello.
And by the way, I'm punning on the title of my book, because my book is called Kindred Spirits.
Yes, yes.
One
Yeah.
of them.
So you have that experience. Was that the first paranormal experience you had when you were a teenager?
Yeah, it was. And because I had a good relationship with my mom and dad, I told them about it. And my
Mm.
mother said that she had the ability if she was afraid to use it.
Oh.
Her father, the one that appeared to me, had the ability, and another cousin in the family had the ability. So it was all on my mom's side.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my mother never used her ability because she was petrified of
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
dead people.
It is. It can be a scary experience.
Well, I guess that was interesting though, because we have so many on the show who talk about how, when the child says something, the parents kind of brush it off or
Mhm.
don't pay any attention to it or are scared by it. So I guess for you that was different because I guess at least to a certain point, like that was at least a little bit validating that that was happening for you.
It was, and what's kind of funny, Frosty, is that it flipped as I grew older and I developed my abilities. Because my mother, who was afraid to communicate with people in the past who passed over, I would talk to her on the phone every day, and she would say, "So, tell me about the dead people you talked to today."
She's warming up to it.
I'm like, "Who is this?"
That's cute. So, okay, so you have this experience at 13, and then clearly you know something's up. What's the journey after that?
Don't think about it, deny it, go to work, go to school, get a degree, get a job, do a career, and
Especially being a scientist, right? Like
yeah,
going through that field
and then
specifically.
I became a meteorologist. First, I actually had a couple of degrees. I went into radio, and then I got a degree in English and business, and then I went back to school for meteorology. So I call it my
Okay.
third degree burn, because I went back to school 3 times.
I had a feeling that you could have answered that radio question. I didn't know
Yeah.
why, but now I know.
Oh,
How fast does radio wave travel? I was like, I bet Rob knows the answer to that.
Yeah.
so it wasn't until 2005. I mean, my first experience was back in 1976, and so yeah, I'm old. The second experience was 2005 when my puppy passed, and
Okay.
he blew the doors off of my abilities.
So tell us about that experience.
Oh gosh, it was awful. So he was a 7-month-old puppy that I got for my birthday,
Mhm.
like 4 months before, and I was walking him, and he saw a dog on the other side, his leash open. He got killed by a car in front of
Oh
me.
my God.
It was awful. When I got his body home, thanks to neighbors, it was like 4 hours later. I was just devastated on the sidewalk. That's when everything started to go crazy. Um, he started with a musical sign, and what's interesting to me is that I've learned that pets will get help from a human spirit to make musical signs happen. So when I walked in the door, I was the only one home, and there was no radio playing. When I got in, the radio was on, and the 2 songs that I heard were direct messages from him. One was The Dance by Garth Brooks, about loving somebody deeply for a short time and being very thankful for it.
Oh my goodness.
The other song that played right afterward was an old song by Alan Jackson called My Heart's as Empty as a Monday Morning Church, how the love of his life had died.
Wow.
And I couldn't find what radio was on.
And that happened the same
Mm.
day, like right after?
Right as I got home, after I got his body
Wow.
into
Wow.
my truck, and I got home. As soon as I walked in the door, and it was crazy. So, being somebody who liked to journal everything, I wrote all these things down. So he went on to do a lot of things. He went on to move things. He led me to another dog that looks like him when I was on vacation. Um, all kinds of crazy things. I heard him. I saw the tail end of him. I saw the backside of him and followed him into a room that was dark. When I turned on the light, there was nobody there.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a million signs that he's given me, and that really helped me learn how pets communicate.
So
Wow.
that's an incredible story, first of all. So I don't know. There's a lot to unpack just with that because
Yeah, I've never.
I mean, some people's gifts it start to open up when they have a trauma, which is what happens with you. But then I feel like there's so much more to that. And let me know if you think that now that time has passed, that specific dog, that specific energy, that specific spirit of that dog, it's like that was like meant to be. That was why, like, that experience was supposed to happen exactly like that, so that all of this would unfold.
Yeah, Jenny, that's a really great insight, because it took me probably 10 years to figure that out. I couldn't understand why he had to pass at such a young
Yeah.
age until I realized how much it was helping other people that I met for me to give them messages.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, for the first 10 years afterward, I just gave free readings to everybody that needed them. And then I had to start charging, because now I'm booked out a year. And
Wow.
and fortunately I retired from my career as a meteorologist, and I'm still booked out a year. And I'm like, this is crazy.
That's wonderful, though.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so his sole mission, even though short, and I think this is important for everybody, is that if your pet passes at a very young age, there's a reason why, and it's something to teach us. And Buzz is, I have a memorial for Buzz, and I said, in the short time that you were with us, you helped me bring healing to the world.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful to me.
And it's like I don't know, like there's just this part of me that feels like, I don't know if it's the psychicness or whatever, but I just feel like I know that was the point from the whole beginning. It's like that was planned before he ever came into your life. And
Yeah.
you can totally throw that out if doesn't resonate for you. But man, it
Yeah, I totally
feels
agree.
extremely powerful is why I'm so frantically trying to explain what I'm feeling.
So Buzz is on the cover of my first Pets in the Afterlife book. That's Buzz. Just so you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I've written 4 of these books, and every one of my 4 dogs who in spirit are on the covers of these books.
Awesome.
So, and they all have a chapter within them, depending on whenever they passed. So they're it's extraordinarily personal to me. It's not just about readings that I've done or other things, but it's extremely personal. And all of my dogs have taught me incredible different ways that spirits communicate from the afterlife. One particular dog named Sprite, he sent a butterfly after he passed. So I tell people that spirits, even dogs and cats, can get help with human spirits for these too, to influence a living animal or wild animal or insect to behave oddly, either around their birthday, their passing, their adoption date, holiday, something like that. Um, and the story of Sprite was that after he passed on July 8th in 2013, um, he we had our dogs out in the back, and we have dachshunds, and we had a Weimaraner, and a butterfly for the first time came into the backyard July 8th. I'm like, where are these butterflies been all year, all summer? So the butterfly came in and he flew around our dogs, our 4 dogs, and on the ground level, and they didn't chase it. Now, anybody who has a dachshund knows that they're going to.
Yeah.
They didn't. And the butterfly just flew the same way that Sprite used to amble around, because he was kind of a little chunky dachshund.
Oh, cute.
And flew around them for quite a while, and they didn't touch it.
Wow.
And I knew that was Sprite.
Yeah.
And the following year, I was driving to work, and I wasn't thinking about what day it was. And a yellow and black butterfly came right up to the windshield of my truck, and flew out. And it was yellow and black. And then I realized it was July 8th.
Oh,
It
wow.
was the anniversary of the passing of Sprite. And I've had many more encounters like that with yellow and black butterflies on his anniversary of passing.
Wow.
Well, that's a crazy way to get the show started, because I've had a lot of thoughts already. Like, evidently, Jenny, I guess you came to the conclusion that Rob already had, previously. But, that's been a question I've always thought. Trying to wonder, not, pets and animals for sure, but also children, like, like, why do bad things happen like that? Like, what's the point of that? And I don't know if I've ever thought about that before, that it served a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm just drawing a blank, but I don't know if I've ever thought about the fact that there could actually be a good reason for something like that, because I've always focused on that as being such a negative.
Yeah.
Of like, why, how could the universe be just and for those things to happen? And I guess it could be a tool of the universe in the way that you talked about, a way for you to be able to help other people, right?
And you could say Rob's life wouldn't be what it is now if that hadn't happened.
Gosh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
And one thing I've learned, Frosty, is that out of something bad always comes something good. There's always something good. It's just a matter of looking for it. We could have like the car wouldn't start for like 5 minutes, for instance. And then you find out that had you left 5 minutes earlier, you would have been in a major accident.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Someone ran the red light. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did
that. I did that once. I accidentally calculated the time wrong traveling. I knew that the distance took 2 hours, but for some reason that day I kept saying, "Oh, it only takes an hour," and we left an hour before we needed to be somewhere, and there was a really huge accident that we probably missed. Yeah. So yeah, that kind of stuff happens a lot. But anyway, go ahead about your other dog.
My dog Dolly influenced me to. When I get in the car, I don't pick up the phone. Even when I'm in a parking lot. But I decided that I needed to send a note to somebody who had asked for a reading, and I could have waited till I got home. But my dog Dolly, since she passed, I always feel her in the car with me, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'll do it. So I did it. Well, I left the parking garage. I went up the on-ramp onto the highway that I had to take to go home. 3 minutes before I got there, there was a major collision that shut 3 of the 4 lanes of the highway down, and I would have been right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you,
Dolly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So it sounds like your experience with your pet specifically is exactly how you learned how, like, the ins and outs of mediumship. Is that true?
Well, my dad had a lot to do with that too.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So when I was writing my first book, my dad passed away.
Mm.
Passed away in 2008. And what was fascinating is that he helped me prove to my mother and my brothers that he was at his own funeral and his own wake. And he did that with a handkerchief.
Tell us more.
So, oh, did I get you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna reel you in. So, so in 2008, when my dad passed, I wasn't living in the same state. I was 400 miles away, and when we came up, when my husband and I came up, we stayed with my mother in the house, and I kept sensing my dad around. He was everywhere. He also played with the electricity in the house, but I can tell you that later. And he hid tools that we put out to fix things. But during his funeral, I sensed him at his wake. But during his funeral, I was in the front pew with my mom and my husband, and my mom was crying into her Kleenex, and it was crumbling. And suddenly I looked up into the church, and I saw my dad standing in the front, in the pulpit, I guess, whatever you call it. And he walked around, and he came over and he stood in front of me. And I just looked up, and he said, "Rob, tell your mother to use my handkerchief."
Oh.
And here's what's weird about that. In the 53 years my parents were married, my mother refused to touch his handkerchiefs. She said, "It's gross. Wash them separately from my clothes. I don't want your snot on my clothes."
Yeah.
So she never touched his handkerchief. So I'm standing there with her, and I said, "Dad, you're kidding." And my mother said, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "I'm talking to Dad." And she said, what does he want?" And I said, "He wants you to use his handkerchief." This is hard for me to.
That's okay, Rob. Yeah, take your time.
So when I told her that, it was like her eyes just bugged out of her head and her mouth opened. And she reached in her purse and she pulled out a handkerchief.
She had one in her purse.
She took it that morning.
Oh my goodness.
For the first time, so she could be close to him.
Oh, wow.
She was beside herself. And my brothers were standing behind us, and they're like, "What in the?" So I said, "Yeah, that Dad just said."
And so he knew that the handkerchief was in her purse.
So he was there obviously in the morning when she was, putting it in her purse. So yeah. So that's a tough story for me to tell because it just brings me to tears all the time. But and my dad's been around a lot.
Yeah.
He used to teach classes at night. So every time I do a lecture, I can feel him around. My mother likes to make me hear her favorite songs in different places. So there's so many things. So people and pets.
Yeah. Wow. You have like such amazing stories. And I love that because when I was learning how to be a medium, one of my teachers would always say the spirit is so smart and clever about the way that they show us signs and synchronicities and things. And your stories just totally back that up because like all these little things that like how do they even think to put, the butterfly, the handkerchief, like I mean it's just it's amazing.
Yeah.
One of the rules that I always tell people is when it comes to spirit, there's no such thing as a coincidence.
Absolutely. Yes. We say that a lot around here. There's no coincidences. Okay. Wow. All right. So the dog passes away 2005.
Mhm.
Your dad passed away 2008.
Mhm.
So then moving between 2005 2008, you're putting things together? When does it really all come together that you decide to call yourself a medium and get involved in all the paranormal, weird, spiritual woo-woo stuff?
So yeah, that's a good question. So by 2009, I was ready to publish the first book,
Nice.
and I did. And here's a tip to all the authors: never publish on the last day of the year because it already outdates your book.
Mm,
Good to
Yeah.
know.
yeah.
I went through a publisher, and after that, I said, no, I'm going to publish myself from now on because I learned a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
So by 2009, in January 2010, I contacted a local paranormal group and I did a quick lecture about, the book and some basic things. And they said, hey, we need a medium. Would you join the team? And that's how I became part of Inspired Ghost Tracking. And but at that time, I was a medium rare. I wasn't well done.
Yeah.
I was a medium rare.
Yeah.
So I learned
Understandable.
from the team and going on investigations, and that was really amazing.
So with the paranormal investigating, reading through your bio, there was some talk about the difference between a ghost and a spirit. I'm assuming you learned most of that during your paranormal investigations. What's your opinion about the difference between those two things?
So I actually kind of figured that out just before I published the first book, which is why I call it Ghosts and Spirits. Throughout the paranormal field, we always hear people either use the words interchangeably, ghost and spirit. But I thought, now wait a minute. The ghosts who are earthbound that I run into that seem to be stuck in a mansion can't move. But yet, here's my dad who has crossed over, and he can come to me anywhere, anytime, any place, give me messages, let me know he loves me. A ghost doesn't have that ability. So I'm thinking, okay, so they're both entities of energy. So what I've come to think of is that when we die, the energies within us, the physical energies like blood pumping, cell splitting, thoughts, electrical impulses of thoughts. The law of conservation of energy in science states energy can't be destroyed, only transformed. So I've learned that it couples with our memories and our personality and the knowledge of the life we lived. And then after that, we make a choice. We cross over like my dad did and become a spirit. So he can come to us. He can come to me anywhere, anytime, any place in the world. And he has. Ghosts, however, choose to stay earthbound at a fixed location of their choosing, either where they lived, where they died, where they visited, or where they were murdered. Or that's why I think prisons and hospitals are full of ghosts. Battlefields are full of ghosts.
Yeah.
Because they died there. And the other part of this is that as a scientist, I use energy as the foundation of everything. Last year, I finally figured out why ghosts can't cross over by themselves. If you think of a ghost like an energizer battery, over time, the charge in that battery drops. When it drops to a certain point, it can't make the toy work, or they don't have enough energy to open the doorway to the other side. That's why, as a paranormal investigator, we have to use 4 or 5 investigators to join our emotional energies together to generate that energy to open the door to get that ghost to cross over and become a spirit.
Okay.
I've heard before, like, the way I've heard it explained before, and this is a conversation we used to have a lot. I don't know if I have, this is probably a question I still have, but I've heard it explained like a ghost is like unaware that it had crossed over. Would that also work with what you've thought, or is this a choice they're making to become a ghost and not to cross over?
Yeah, to me, in my experience, it's always been a choice. They've always
Okay.
chosen, or they've waited too long. Because sometimes people who are, for instance, murdered on the street, they may wake up as an energy entity and linger too long trying to figure out why they are where they are and what happened. Because
Mhm.
I've also um, heard from spirit too that sometimes there's a blackout period, an instant blackout just before they die, like whether they're in a car accident and they die, or whether they're murdered and they die. There's a blackout period, so they don't remember exactly what the cause was, but they wake up and they're like their energy with the conscience, and they just linger around too long trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I can see that too. I think I
That's
had a
interesting, because that brings some questions too, especially if we talk about like the drained battery scenario. Because well, we had a news article a couple weeks ago about um that brought to mind something, because it was something about like if ghosts could die. Um, and I thought about the fact that a lot of times you have these ghosts that'll be around for a long period of time, and then they just kind of seem to peter out. Now, whether that's the energy dissipating, or whether that's the legend of the ghost that dies to begin with, I don't know, but that would kind of seem to explain that scenario of why eventually ghosts just kind of cease to haunt or to exist anymore.
So I have a theory about that and it's all about energy. So in my experience, there are two types of energy that ghosts or spirits will draw on. There are physical energies like heat, light, water, and electricity that empower them, or there are emotional energies. Spirits of our loved ones draw on faith, love, and hope to give them strength enough to come back and give us a sign, like my dad or my mom, or my dogs. Ghosts use negative emotional energy. That is fear, anxiety, depression, anger. Those things will fuel a ghost, like going into a haunted place and you feel anxiety. You're fueling that ghost. If a ghost is haunting a certain location for a very long period of time, hundreds of years, and I ran into a whole bunch of them in England, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
they may not have enough energy to make an appearance. So they may just appear as an orb, uh, a ball of light, simple form of light. A ghost is to me, it's like a light bulb on a dimmer switch. So ghosts can sit there and be dormant until they get that energy. Like a dimmer switch, if you have the dimmer turned all the way down, you may be able to see the outline of the light bulb in the dark. Once you turn on the energy, it lights up. You can see the filaments and everything else. And so I think ghosts can linger for an indefinite period of time.
Okay.
They just need an energy source in order to get strong enough to communicate.
To be able to kind of refuel it. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, that works pretty parallel with a lot of paranormal investigative techniques that involve using energy. So yeah, that makes sense.
And there always does tend to be some kind of story, right? With the ghosts, like they were like you said, they were murdered, or they were, they drowned, or like there's never like that. There's never just like they just happened to pass on naturally and now they're a ghost here. Typically, there's some kind of trauma typically associated with the life or the death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you? Go ahead.
I have found people do decide to stay behind if they love the house that they grew up in. There are a couple of them that I've run into in mansions in the state of Maryland, where I was investigating, and they just love the house. And I'm like, there's something so much better on the other side for you.
They're still too interested in the earthly things. Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering if you had any experiences with a partial person, a partial bit of energy from someone that's not their
Mm.
whole spirit. Like some of them is gone on, but something is left behind.
You mean like a residual
Like
imprint?
no, like a split, like something has split.
No, I have not encountered that.
Okay.
Nope.
And then yeah, what's your take on the residual hauntings?
So to me, residual hauntings are really like an emotional energy imprint that's left
Mhm.
behind. When we all live and dwell in structures, and when we have a burst of emotion, whether it's happy or sad or angry or whatever, what I think is that we're impressing that energy of emotion into the walls of the structure. And whenever somebody walks in with their own emotional energy, it lights up enough, gives it enough energy to replay.
Mm. Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, makes sense too.
Well, CMC was saying I've also seen a ghost in a portion of a 1700s house that was subsequently modified and expanded. The entity knows how to turn radios and TVs on, which just brings to mind the idea that so many places, historical places, have an uptick in paranormal activity when they do like renovations and stuff. Which also I guess is like connection to the house and not wanting things to be changed. And
Yeah, they don't want you to
yeah.
touch their stuff.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I may be dead, but I don't want you to touch my stuff. Right?
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of that. Was there something that you specifically had in mind, Jenny, when you were talking about the split thing?
Well, that's just something that I've experienced before, and I know that some other people have. But so I was just wondering if Rob had that experience
Oh,
before
okay.
too.
No, I'd love to hear about it though. It's fascinating.
I've had that experience a few times where, and I don't understand why it would happen, or I understand the mechanics of maybe of the situation of why it might happen, like a traumatic experience, but I don't understand why sometimes it would happen and sometimes it doesn't. But I've seen it happen. I've had the experience maybe about 3 times now where it's like part of that person's energy is stuck in a place, but not their whole spirit is there.
Hmm.
And they can be reconciled, they can come back together, but it's and maybe it's just part of that what you've been talking about, where it's like this the emotion gets left behind. So maybe there's something more to it that has to do
Mm.
with part of their consciousness too. I don't know, like there maybe part of their consciousness is so attached to that emotional reaction that happened. And I'm just talking it all out now just for myself, I think. Like maybe
Well,
part of their consciousness is so attached to that specific thing that happened that part of their thought, which consciousness is all about thought, gets left behind with that emotional response. I don't know.
yeah, I mean the possibility of like a spirit, of having both forms, like someone passes and part of their soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, is a ghost, and then part does cross over to spirit. I
I've
guess that could be
I've
possible. Yeah.
seen it, but I don't understand why or
Yeah.
how that works. Yeah, I don't know.
Or what if, I mean, how do we know that it doesn't always happen?
I hope
That
not.
there's not, well, that there's not like some earthly, like the earthly attachments of us stay behind. Like, what if our earthly attachments had to stay behind for our spirit to be able to like go on,
That doesn't
Like we
sound
can't
fun.
take that
No,
stuff with
thanks.
us.
Well, I can tell you, my mother is on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, I am not staying back here.
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But what if I guess if it went both ways,
Yeah.
like because yeah, I don't know because that would also it would be interesting it would be interesting because you could probably do some kind of experiments with that if you had a ghost that had haunted. I don't know because so many times ghosts tend to be old, like tend to be older. They don't tend to be like ghosts that just happened last year, you know. But it's like, you know, if someone is communicating with a woman who's a spirit, like someone's mother or something, but then they're also supposed to be haunting this place or something, you know. Like
Mhm.
if you could find one that was new enough that you could have, you know, a medium and a paranormal group. I don't know. That could be an interesting experiment to see if they can exist at the same time or if one is different than the other. Or I just don't know how you would find that
Yeah.
ghost also in spirit form, you know?
Well, Rob, have you experienced or heard about or found through your experiences that that time is happening all at the same time?
Uh, in my experience, there's no concept of time in
On the
spirit.
other side, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
So as a scientist, time, I know time is, it's a physical world thing. So, you know, for Earth, it takes 365 days to go around the sun. That's 1 year.
hmm
For Saturn, it takes 29 Earth years
yeah,
to become one 1 year. So time is relevant to wherever you are in the physical, but in spirit, they always tell me that it, even if they passed like 20, 30 years ago, it's like they passed yesterday for us.
yeah. There's no time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yeah. That's I've experienced that too. So then, yeah, which just brings up that opens a whole other can of worms of things that make my brain hurt trying to think about it. Because, you know, I understand that
Yeah.
in our fishbowl of living on Earth, that
Mhm.
we have this specific set time. And if we lived on a different planet, then we would have a other specific set time. But if in
Mhm.
spirit side there's no time, then what kind of ramifications does that have to everything else? And then some of those weird things that don't make any sense, like how can part of a ghost be in one place and then their spirit's also crossed over? Then some of those things might make sense because for them there isn't any time anyway.
So I think in terms of a split
Mm.
personality kind of thing, it may be just a spirit that comes back to a specific place
Could be.
um,
Mhm.
for a limited time,
Yeah.
just to visit. Like I'm sure that my parents would go back to their house, you know, to see
Mhm.
what the heck the people that bought it are
Yeah. Checking
destroying
in on
it.
things.
You know, so you know, if they run into my parents as entities, they could think they're ghosts, but
Yeah.
they're not
Mhm.
spirits. So
Yeah.
And
they'll leave.
well, and to add on that time aspect of it, if your parents go back to their house to visit it for whatever, in that plane, in that dimension, or you know, however we want to refer to that, and there is essentially no time, then someone in the physical world, in our 3D world, goes to that house. How do we know that the ghost they're experiencing that's always seemed to be there, but they only always seem to be there because we experience time and they don't?
So, as a medium, I can tell you that I can sense when someone is earthbound because they give up negative emotional energy,
Yeah, which you and you were
and
talking
I
about that
can,
before. Mhm.
yeah, and I can tell when somebody's crossed over because it's always positive and it's light
Mhm.
and a good feeling. Um, so
Gotcha.
when I walk into places and I get a heavy feeling, I know that there's an earthbound
Mm.
ghost there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so it's really about it. I mean, it's really inexplicable other than saying it's a feeling. Um,
Mhm. CMC pointed out something interesting. Odd that so many pets can cross over and people that have passed will choose or are forced to stay.
oh, I
Mm.
can address that.
Yeah, go for it.
So I've learned a lot about pets because I've been doing pet readings now for, gosh, I don't know, 15 years. So if you have a pet, you know that animals are very wise, and they trust their instincts.
Mm-hmm.
They also know someone with a good personality to go over and shower attention to, and they know people, conversely, with a very bad personality or someone who's angry, um, and they go the other way. So when we pass and we become that energy entity for a minute or whatever, however long, with our consciousness, and the light, we have enough energy so that the light opens for us to the other side. They can sense that it's peaceful, that it's love and peace and calmness. So that's where they go. Just like in life, even wild animals do the same thing. That's why there are no ghost dinosaurs, by the way. Let's throw that out. They can sense where it's peaceful. People, on the other hand, and this is why I don't do readings for humans, spirits. People have too many hangups. People are stubborn and bullheaded. They can be arrogant. They can think that they're doing the best thing for them, and denying the fact that somebody's saying, hey, look, you can get everything you want in the light. It's peaceful, it's love, it's calmness. And they go, no, 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 no. I want to stay here in my house that I bought, where I love all my stuff. And you're like, it's so short-sighted. Also, I mean, there are many other reasons why people stay behind as ghosts. Some think they can help their loved ones get through the grief. Others want to show their loved ones where they left something. Others think they don't deserve to cross over, and they fear the other side. I found that, oddly enough, I found a lot of times when I do investigations that people who are very religious are the ones that stay behind, because they remember any little infraction they do, and they're petrified to cross over.
I think they're going to hell.
Yeah, and they really shouldn't be, because everything from spirit I've learned is that there is no hell.
Yep.
Hell is actually being stuck as an earthbound ghost.
Exactly.
In a place where you can only communicate with someone who's a medium, if you're lucky enough that they walk in.
The hell is the hell you create for yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, we had a guest on that we talked about that with. After after death, the near death experience.
Near death experience where she ended up in hell, and then she realized it was just her own
creation. Yeah. And so realized that, like, everything she'd experienced, and like for her, she had felt like she had been there like forever. Like, at the time just went on and on and on. And then she came back to life and was like, and realized that it was like what she had made, and so that was like the thing to fear, was like, that our own minds, to a certain extent, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It really does.
And when you look at the concept of hell, Frosty, that was created so that people would be scared to do what somebody else wants them to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
In a very selfish way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nothing like putting fear into people, and that's why when people use fear, whether it's in business or management or politics or anything, when anybody uses fear, they do that so they can control you.
Yeah.
And that is not the right way. We need to work with each other and love and be respectful of each other. And that's what spirit wants us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I have seen from any of the mediums that I've talked to, worked with, any of the guests that we've had on there, we talked about spirituality. No concept of hell has ever come up, except for the ones we create ourselves, possibly. So.
Or being afraid that, the same thing that Rob said, or being afraid that they're going to go there, so they don't leave at all. Yeah. Lightworker has an interesting story here. I've seen a deer that's been killed on the highway, and they were standing next to the body, and intuitively told them to go to the light.
Wow.
I often see the open vortex. They just turn into the light and they're gone.
That's awesome.
Wow. What an experience.
Yeah.
So speaking of different animals, what kinds of different animals have you been able to talk to for people for their pets?
Only domesticated ones.
Okay.
Because they live with us. They learn
Yeah.
our language.
Yeah.
They learn our habits and so forth. So they can communicate to me things.
Mhm.
You'd be surprised how many words they pick up on.
Yeah.
I just did a reading for a cat and a dog, and the cat kept telling me about, just throw out the word Lucy in the middle of telling me how the cat passed away, and then the cat says Lucy, 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 and I'm like, who's Lucy? So I wrote it down. A dog just shared with me the name Carol, and the dog was telling me favorite things, like going into the forest, this particular walkway and so forth, and then says Carol, 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 and I'm like, who's Carol? So both pet parents wrote me back, and one said the cat was addressing Lucy because Lucy is the neighbor across the street that used to come over and feed her and play with her and spend time with her. The other pet parent says, my dog is referring to his auntie Carol, who lives a state away, that would come up and spend a lot of time with him.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So domesticated pets pick up on a lot of things that we see. I can't communicate with wild animals because they don't know what we do.
That makes sense.
It's kind of funny.
Have you ever had any weird domesticated pets though that you've spoken with?
Well, gerbils, rats, rabbits, ferrets. Yeah.
How about any birds or reptiles?
All the birds. Like the old Jim Stafford song, I don't like spiders and snakes. I just cannot read them because they freak me out.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to talk to your tarantula after it's passed, do not call Rob.
No, read my book and you can figure it out.
So do you notice a difference in the different types of animals even after they've passed? Like do they communicate in different ways, or is it kind of all the same?
A lot of it is so it's all telepathic to me. So if they heard a word, they can repeat it to me. If they saw something in their environment, they can show it to me. One of the funniest readings I did was I think it was a little dog, and who kept telling me about Taylor Swift. And I'm like, okay. I said, this dog just has mentioned Taylor Swift for about 4 or 5 times. And so I wrote to the mom, and the mom wrote me back and said, that makes perfect sense because my daughter was a teenager. When she would come home, she would take the dog up to her room. All she would do is play Taylor Swift, who is her favorite singer. And she also resembles Taylor Swift.
Oh my
goodness. So that dog got a lot of Taylor Swift. And I'm like, wow.
That's kind of cute, though.
Yeah.
But it's astounding to me as somebody. I don't even know where these people are. I don't know their last names. I don't know what state they live in. I don't even know what country they live in half the time. Because I've done readings for pets that live in Turkey, Mexico, Canada, Germany, the UK, Ireland, Poland, Norway. And they show me, or they tell me what their environment looks like. And I'm like, wow, I've really traveled all over the place.
Yeah.
With these little...
Telepathically, you have traveled all over the world.
Yeah, kind of
cool. Well, speaking of Ireland, we wanted to talk about that too. But Frosty, did you kind of want to reset the stream here for?
Yeah, let's do that. I want to ask one question though. Do you ever? So we get like the evidence part of the reading, obviously, like the message and stuff like that. But do you ever get any kind of spiritual message or kind of information that comes across from the pet mediumship, like things that we need to know from that kind of side of it? I feel like that might have a different angle on things.
Some pets have shared wisdom with
Mhm.
me that I wind up sharing with their pet parent. And in one particular rabbit that I did a reading for named Wudge, WDGE, never forget it. He said, "Tell my dad that love is nothing you should ever apologize for,"
Oh,
because his dad had to make the decision to help him
no.
pass.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I thought, oh my gosh, that is so amazing coming from a rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smartest little rabbit. That's
Mhm.
so cute. Wow.
All right. Well, you are listening and watching The Witching Hours. Welcome in. If you are just joining us or if you missed the very beginning of the show, we are joined tonight by Rob Gutro, who is an author, pet medium. And we have been discussing, the journey into mediumship, learning that. And we've kind of been discussing his experiences as a pet medium and how that came about. We have quite a little bit more time here. We got about 45 minutes or so left in the show. So I guess we will go ahead and say if you have a question for Rob, go ahead and put that into chat and we can get that message put up to answer. So feel free to put any questions you have in chat and we'll get those up there. So yeah, there we go. All right, Jenny. So do you want to talk about, you wanted to move on to,
Yeah. One of the things we were talking about that was mentioned previously when Frosty was talking about having you on was Ghost of Ireland. What is up with that?
um, so every couple of years, my husband and I like to take a vacation together and go somewhere. And I don't plan them. Um,
mm,
he does. So I don't know anything about where we're going. Um, so we went to England in 2012 and 2013, and I'm the kind of guy that when I go on a vacation, I take a blank notebook and I write down all these things that we experience so that I can read them later and go, wow, remember this, that we saw this and we went here. Um, I had no idea, and I should have thought about it, but I didn't. I had no idea that I was going to run into so many dead people everywhere I went in
Yeah.
England. And when I got home, I started doing like a personal blog about it. And that became the basis of my first in the series of Ghosts on Medium's Vacation, Ghosts of England, which is behind me over here. In that particular book, I met people from all different centuries, all different walks of life. I met shopkeepers. I met guards. I had the Screaming Queen of Catherine Howard run right through me in
Oh,
Hampton Court Palace and
yikes.
chill me to the bone. And I thought it was actually a woman, a living woman, because I heard somebody screaming and I looked down the corridor and here she comes right at
mm,
me and she goes right through me.
Oh, yikes.
And I was like, what in the world? And if you can look that up because a lot of people have had that kind of experience.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that was England. So many different ghosts. And one of the most incredible vacation experiences I had in England was when I know we want to talk about Ireland, but this
No,
is
yeah. Share the vacation things for
this
sure.
is
I
kind
want
of
to hear
cool.
about them.
I think you'll find this fascinating, Jenny, because have you ever been to England? You two?
No. Mm-mm.
we have not.
Not yet? Well, you need
Mm-mm.
to
Not
go.
yet.
Yes, we do.
I was in Ireland for a layover for a few hours. I got to go outside and see the green, but that was about it.
Okay. All right. Well, you need to go back. Um, so so my husband is a fan of the Tudor era, Henry VIII and all that. I don't pay attention to it. That's his thing. I don't get into it. Or I didn't. He planned a trip with a great travel agent. And they covered a whole bunch of historic places, from Westminster Abbey to Blenheim Palace to Hampton Court Palace to all these other places that I'd never heard of before. And everywhere I went, as I said, I ran into dead people. we went to a place called Hever Castle. Now, are you both familiar with Henry VIII?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Did you ever see the Tudors TV series?
No,
I don't know if we watched that one.
no, I don't think
I
we
don't think
did.
so.
Okay. Well, if
I
you
think
do,
we're both
I
familiar
didn't
with
watch
that
it either. It's too
that
violent.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk to dead people, but I don't want to see violence.
Yeah.
Or snakes or
No.
spiders.
Nope. So when we went to Hever Castle, I knew nothing about it. We walked into Hever Castle. We went into the front door. We went through the big gate, and as soon as we walked in, there was a man standing next to me, and he said, "Hello, my name is George," and he had this very thick British accent, which I can't do. And I looked, and there was nobody there, and I knew he was a ghost, and so I turned to my husband and I said, "Do you know anybody named George that would be living here?" And he looked at me like I had 3 heads on my shoulders. He said, "Of course, that would be George Boleyn. This is the Boleyn family home, the home of Anne Boleyn's parents."
Mm-hmm.
And George was her brother. So, long story short, in the chapter, George gave us a personal, private tour
Wow.
throughout Hever Castle, throughout different parts of it. And he told me different things that happened in different parts of the castle, including, he also gave me the year. And, I'm just writing this down. I don't know what it is. When I got home, I looked it up. That year that he gave me was the first year his sister received a royal title.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So that was my experience in Hever Castle, but the book is filled with crazy experiences.
So a personal guide, and then giving you dates to be able to research afterwards, essentially, like to be able to check up on all the information.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's how I wrote the book. I wrote the book, so it's history and hauntings. So if you like history and you like ghosts, that you'll like the Ghost on a Medium's Vacation series.
Did your husband find it irritating that he's the history person and you're the one getting to have the experience with the ghost too, telling all the history bits?
No, because I told him stuff that he didn't know.
Well, we can imagine how that would go down, because we have that same dynamic here.
Yeah.
I'm the master's in history guy.
Yeah.
So I'm the historian and she's the medium. So I can imagine, only if you're talking to, I would probably just be asking so many questions that you couldn't be able to keep up with.
I love it. You guys see, you guys have the perfect combination. You need to go.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes. At some point, hopefully we'll get over there. It's
I would love to. And inflation, Rob.
I know. We want to go back, and we haven't been able to wing it.
Yeah,
so I got
public school teacher salary. So
I got a couple. I got a couple.
I go to like Ireland, New Jersey.
Is there Ireland, New Jersey? No, don't answer that.
There's a Swedesboro though. Yeah.
Okay, I got a couple questions. Okay, first question is, so when you're experiencing these ghosts or spirits that are in these places, are you seeing them in your mind's eye, or are you seeing them with your physical eyes?
With my mind's eye.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when you're like the very first time you saw your grandpa, that was with your physical eyes. Have you seen any other things with your physical eyes, or is it all just you're with your mind's eye?
Oh no, I've seen quite a few.
Okay, cool.
So in the Ghosts of England book, the very first ghost that I saw, I sketched. So I sketch out ghosts, by the way, when I see them.
Oh, cool.
And
very cool.
On Paranormal Investigations, that's come in handy, because usually my sketches will be shown to the homeowner, and they will confirm this is the person that I've seen in my house.
Okay.
And so far, I batted 1,000.
Nice.
Everyone. So I'm going to hold up a sketch I did of a woman that I saw outside the Jewel Tower. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's in the book. What's interesting is that when I came home, I looked up, and I knew what era she was from. She said she was from the mid 1600s. So I looked it up. There was a dress online that looked very similar to this.
Cool.
Mhm.
Freaked me out.
Yeah.
So I have sketches all throughout my books, and every chapter is filled with pictures of the places that I went. So that's why people use them as a tour guide when they go,
Mm,
which
nice.
is
Oh,
that's
yeah.
exactly what I wanted them to do.
Yeah. I love when you can get validation like that backs up some historical thing or about the person or the people. It's always awesome. So my other question about England or Ireland or just going to a different country is why do you think there's so many more ghosts?
Oh, because it was a brutal time.
Yeah,
um,
true that.
so George Boleyn stayed behind because I asked him. I said, "Why did you stay here?" And he said, "Because Henry VIII beheaded me on a lie, and I wanted to prove to everybody that it was a lie,
Wow.
and that's why I stayed behind." Because Henry VIII accused he and his sister of having, physical sexual relationship, which is
Hmm.
absolutely fake. Henry VIII just wanted out of the marriage, as I
Yeah.
learned. So,
Hmm.
so that's why he stayed behind. And so I wrote that. I wrote that in the book. I said George said that he is absolutely innocent of this, and it was a total lie.
Hmm.
So I got his story out.
Nice. All right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I already know the answer to it because you said it earlier. But so I guess when you're going in these places, there's no possibility of running across like ghost animals, then, right? At this point, or have you encountered anything like that? Or do they
I
come back to these places in spirit?
um I have encountered two ghost cats and one ghost dog in all of my time. Coincidentally, the ghost dog was in a home turned museum in London
Mm.
from an architect named Sir John Soane. So my husband's an architect, so of course, we had to go into a museum that was about an architect.
Mhm.
Well, he
Um,
planned the trip.
yeah, I'm like, how many people do you know would plan to go into an architect in London? So it was kind of funny, but regardless. So we opened the door to this former home, now museum, and right, this little black and tan dog ran right up to me, and then ran right by me, and I'm like, why is there a dog in a museum? And so my husband said, "What are you talking about?" Okay. So we just went through. And I saw the little dog again, and I'm like, okay, interesting. So we get up to the gift shop, and I said to them, is there a little black and tan dog in here? We did notice that there was a giant portrait of a woman with a black and tan dog.
Oh.
And I thought, that's the dog. Okay, so. And when we get to the gift shop, I asked the woman in the gift shop, and she said, "Oh, you've seen the dog. That's Fanny. Fanny is Mrs. Soane's favorite dog."
Mm.
And she said, if you go back downstairs to the first floor and you look out this little courtyard window, there's a tiny little tombstone with Fanny on it, which I missed.
Oh, yeah.
I was buried in the courtyard. Um, so the dog did not want to cross because he loved his mom so much.
Yeah.
And now the dog stays because he loves to greet everybody at the door like he greeted me.
Aw, so
Mhm.
cute.
Mhm.
And the person at the gift shop said, did you sense any people, any human ghosts? And I said, no, not at all. And she said, that's interesting because neither has anybody else, but
Oh,
everybody has
wow.
seen the ghost dog that works here.
Sweet little Fanny.
So they wrote a book about Fanny, and there's a picture of the cover of that book in my Ghost of England book. I bought the book, of course. It's for kids,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I have to have this book about Faye.
Yeah. You're a pet medium. You have
For
to have
sure.
a book about a ghost dog. Oh, that's awesome.
Interesting.
Okay, so then what about Ireland? When did you go there?
So Ireland came about 3 years after, and
Okay.
again, I knew nothing about Ireland, so I didn't put the trip together. I had no idea where we were going. Turned out we went from Dublin all the way around. We took the train to the other side. We went to County Cork. Gosh, everywhere. We went around in a circle,
Mhm.
and one of the most haunted places that I went into was totally by accident. It wasn't on our agenda. It was the Cork City Jail. Spelled,
Sounds like a fun place.
oh gosh. So I do not want to go back into any jails anymore.
Yeah. Well, you were talking earlier about, the places that you tend to have them in jails or another place that tend to have a lot of hauntings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were 8 ghosts in that jail. And of course we got up to the we talked about stopping there, and I'm like, I don't know about this.
Mhm.
But we went in, and there was amazing, just amazing things that I encountered. The minute we walked through the front door, by the way, you go to the ticket table or whatever. It's a table where you buy your ticket, and I suddenly heard all of this commotion outside, like all these men shouting, yelling and shouting. And I know that when we came in, there was one other car in the parking lot. I'm like, what is that? So I went back outside and I looked, and there was nobody there. And I thought, what happened out front of this jail? So I asked the person at the desk, and they said, oh, that's where the gallows used to be. So we would have prisoners all bound up come out into the front, and they would hang a prisoner there, and there would be a lot of shouting and screaming and so forth. I'm like, oh, well, there's a lot of residual energy out there right now.
I can imagine.
Yeah, that was my first introduction.
Wow.
Yeah, good times. Yeah, and a place like Ireland, I'm sure there was a lot of hangings.
Yes. So that jail was open in the 1800s, and there was one of the prisoners that talked to me was arrested for stealing sheep, and he died in the jail. He was beaten over the head.
Give us a second, Rob. You're cutting out on us just a little bit. Let's see if we can get that cleared up. All
okay.
Right. Let's give it a second, see if it clears up. Just want to say, I think the whole thing is
we froze up.
All right. So if you're just joining us,
frozen.
We're talking about mediumship, pet mediumship. We're getting quite a ways, but if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in chat.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, there you are.
We had the whole thing just crashed on us.
Oh my gosh.
I think we're still live though. We're still live. I think for everybody out there. Hopefully, everything's coming through. Let me bring us up on the old Twitch there. Yeah, we're still live on Twitch.
I think we're back.
I think we're back and live. We can edit that out of the podcast. But yeah, I don't know what happened. We had the whole kit and caboodle went down on us. That's never happened before. Well, we said we were having an interesting day, Rob.
Yep.
Yes.
This is episode 88, and this is this is the first time we've had it crash on us in the show. So
Yeah.
I mean, we have some weather coming, but that's not until tomorrow night. Although we still do have a little bit of snow and ice out there from the last one. So I don't know.
The
But anyway,
internet has been funky for the last few days. It's been kind of going, and today specifically, in and out.
yeah,
So
the weird
I
thing
guess the
is
fact that we made it an hour
as
and a
far.
half without something happening is probably good.
Yeah. I'm still all in the green over here for Twitch on the bit rate and everything. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
All
we're
feeds
back.
are smooth now, CMC says. So we're all good to go.
Okay.
Yay!
There we go.
That's
So
excellent.
what were we talking about? We were talking about Ireland.
We're
We were
talking
talking
about the
about
Cork City jail.
the
Yeah, the Cork City
jails.
jail.
We were
Mhm.
talking about
Yeah.
the hangings, and then
Yeah.
I think that's when everything went haywire.
Yeah. So there was one of the ghosts that I met in the Cork City jail told me his story. He was a young guy. He was beaten over the head by one of the guards, and he wound up dying in his cell. And that's why he's there, because he woke up and he was dead and he didn't know where he was, and that's
Wow.
where he wound up being.
And he's still there. Wow.
So yeah, so I sketched him out in the book. I'm kind of looking for the picture of that. I can't find it. But in addition to the jail, and again, there were 8 different ghosts there. I went to other places like the Dingle Peninsula, which is on the Atlantic Ocean side, and we went into this small town called Dingle, the town of Dingle, and
That's a
you
fun
go,
name.
yeah. You go into these. So I went in these shops. Now these shops have been around for hundreds of years, and they're now, one is a wool shop. They make wool. They make sweaters and all that stuff. And the other one was an art studio. So there were dead people in both of those.
Wow.
And so I went upstairs in one of them, to the second floor of this sweater, the studio where they make sweaters, they hand knit sweaters and so forth, wool sweaters. And the studio where they work on them is upstairs. And there was a woman standing by the window, and she was looking out. And I'm like, okay, well, outside there's not much of a view because there's a high wall. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she looked at me, and I knew she was dead. And I thought, oh, are you waiting for somebody? And she told me that she was feverish, and she was waiting for the doctor.
Oh no.
And then I started to see through her. This is a rare thing that I actually saw her.
Yeah.
And so I sketched her out. And I was talking to her about, I said, you've passed. Obviously, you don't know that you passed. You're still waiting for the doctor. I said, let me help you cross over. And as I'm saying, let me help you cross over, 2 tourists came upstairs, and they're watching me talk to nobody at the window.
Embarrassing.
I'm like, just go over there to the light.
Did she cross over?
It felt like she did, because the room got kind of warm.
Yeah.
So, and whenever we've crossed over Earthbound Ghosts, we always get a burst of warm air.
That's cool.
But yeah, so that was again a reminder. Hey, you're talking to dead people that nobody else can see.
Yeah. Shadow Max has a question about the jail, but I think we could open this up to any time too. Did any of them try and attach to you?
Nope, they did not. Because when I go in, I usually, although on vacation, I'm really not thinking about putting protection around me. I'm a very optimistic person, and if you're optimistic, you radiate positive emotional energy, and ghosts typically can't attach to that, because they're negative emotional energy. And on rare occasion, they will try to follow somebody that they think can help them cross over. That only happened once, twice actually, that I'm aware of. One came with a member of the paranormal team back to a meeting because they knew that she understood the paranormal and could help her cross over. And the other one was a burn victim that died being tended to in the hospital. She attached herself, followed a nurse home that was helping, soothe her in hopes that she would help her cross over too.
Oh, wow.
So that's another story. That's in my case files book. And we actually figured out her identity, called her by name, helped her cross over. That was another wacky story.
That's cool.
We have another question here from CMC Air Boss. Question: if we run into a ghost, how do we help former people cross over if they are ready?
So the they are ready question is the key here, because if they're not, I always tell people that paranormal investigators have to act like a salesperson, because we have to sell people on going to the other side. So if they're ready, it would be easier to get a number of people together and combine their emotional energies, focus on one part of a room, envision an area opening, like a white light. Someone can describe it while the others can help picture it. And then connect to the energy of the ghost and call on the spirit related to them on the other side so they can help bring them over. And that's what typically we do.
What do you mean, connect to a spirit on the other side? Like somebody that's related to them?
Yeah. So by reading the energy of the ghost, but as a medium, we can, once the portal is open to the other side, we can read similar energy like of a relative and them to come through.
Cool.
To lead them in.
I've had that experience too.
Oh, look at
that. Yeah. So I was gonna ask you about that. If you had people that on the other side that they know can help them realize that they can leave. Yeah. Seeing someone familiar helps. Yeah.
Well, great questions. Thank you for answering, for asking the questions. If anyone has any more, feel free to put them in chat. But I have another question. As we're talking about vacations and kind of the ghost hunting or running into ghosts, I guess, on these vacations, have you been anywhere that wasn't English speaking, and were you able to communicate with ghosts there?
Good question. I have been to Italy, but unfortunately I had a massive sinus infection, so I couldn't connect to anybody.
Wow.
Yeah, I needed sinus surgery when I got home, actually.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some seriousness.
So I found that I learned from that trip that being physically sick, all of your energy is directed to healing your body. So you cannot pick up messages. I did go to Greece, and there were a few, but I couldn't understand what they were saying to me. I could sense emotion, but I couldn't understand the words. That even happened in the U.S. when I was on a paranormal investigation. A woman's father came through in spirit, and he was actually speaking Greek, and she was standing next to me, and I said, does your father speak a different language? Because he's saying something to me and I don't get it. And the woman said, oh yeah, he only speaks Greek. And I'm like, oh, it's Greek to me.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, I've had that issue too. It's like they're saying something, but it's not in English. So yeah.
So we can only feel the emotions.
Yeah, we can only pick up on on their information some other way. Yeah.
Which I guess, through the emotion, you could probably still give some kind of reading through that, I guess, to a certain degree.
You can see if they're distressed or happy or something like that. Or if
they can give us visuals or like the pets do. Does that happen for you too, where the human spirits will give you visual things?
They do, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know Greek. I don't know Ukrainian. Yeah, help me out. Help a girl out here.
So
I did go to
Oh, yeah.
Austria. They were, they actually were speaking some English.
In Austria, cool.
Yeah.
Even a lot of places.
Oh, well, you take a Viking cruise tour, and then you go to all these countries.
Oh yeah, they
All the
drop you
different-
off in all those places.
Yeah, yes. Not like I
That
can
sounds like
afford to
fun.
go all these places, but
So-
one boat
Sounds like
takes
fun,
you
though.
there.
Yeah, I know. We need to go on one of those. How many books do you have?
I have 12, actually.
Wow.
Just published my 12th one 8 days ago.
Oh wow. Which one is the newest?
It's called The Haunting of Emery Estate. This is the book.
All
There we
right.
go.
Where is
And-
that?
That is in Weymouth, Massachusetts.
Okay.
That was kind of a crazy adventure. A year ago, I was at a paranormal conference 2 years ago. I was at a paranormal conference, and I met the only paranormal investigator drag queen
Nice.
ever. And she decided to do drag because she does shows. And during COVID, you couldn't do shows because of COVID.
Mhm.
And when she did drag the first time, she said that she became a trigger object for ghosts who were trying to figure out what she is, man or woman.
Yeah.
And she said the first time she went on an investigation, she got a phasma box voice. Phasma box is something that creates a voice from a ghost, and it said, "That girl is a man." And ever since, she's been doing these investigations in places. And so she came to me and asked me to do a pet reading for her.
Oh, I think we're having some drop issues again on our end. Oh man, what should I keep it going? What should I keep it going?
Yeah, it looks okay. Yeah, I see. Somebody says keep going. So Emery Estate is in Weymouth, Massachusetts, and it's haunted. And we encountered 3 ghosts. She asked me to go, and I went, and I was on her team. And one of the ghosts had a tragic story. The other ghost had an okay story, and the third ghost was a real piece of work.
Mm.
And I sketched them out. So I don't know if you can see this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I call him the man in the gray suit. We were trying to help one of the other ghosts, and he pulled a fast one on us at the end of the investigation. And he just let his terrible personality come through.
Mm.
But so that's my newest one. It was a crazy 5-hour investigation where we confirmed 2 of them.
Oh, nice.
Associated with the property, yeah. But there's so many crazy stories. I have another book called The Case Files of Inspired Ghost Tracking, which is actual case files when we went into private homes and uncovered ghosts that were trapped, that chose to be trapped. One was a double murder investigation, as it turned out. We had no idea what we'd find, and we found 2 women that were earthbound ghosts that were brutally murdered in the home.
Wow.
And that was a crazy investigation, trying to figure out that there were actually 2 women, and that it wasn't one woman from a domestic situation. It wasn't that at all. And then after the investigation, I put the report together. We were able to get the police report, which verified everything myself and the other medium got.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a crazy, wild ride.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
Have either of you been to Tombstone, Arizona?
No.
I have not. Nope.
Have you seen the movie Tombstone from 1993?
I have.
With Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer?
Mm-hmm.
That inspired me to go to Tombstone back in 1994 because something looked eerily familiar. to me, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I became enamored with Wyatt Earp, and I started trying to go places that he went, that he lived, and he lived a whole bunch of places.
Yeah.
I wanted to write a book about him, but there's so many books about Wyatt Earp that I didn't. So the very first time I went to Tombstone, the actual town is actually not the one in the movie Frosty. That was actually a set built in the Tucson movie studios.
Mm-hmm.
So the day that myself and a friend of mine went to Tombstone, we decided as two Yankees, we were going to dress up like Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. And this is a picture of us dressed up as Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. We wanted to do something fun and crazy, so we did. But the minute we walked into town, somebody came up to us and said, "Hey, you guys look like you work here as reenactors.
Yeah.
Can you tell me where the what do you call it? The courthouse is?" And I just looked at him and I said, "Sure, yeah. You go down here 2 blocks, you take a left, you take 1 block, you take a right, and it's on the left-hand side." And my friend looked at me and he said, "What the hell did you just do?" He said, "We've never been here before. We don't have a map of the town." And all we had was a long, big paper map with Tombstone was a little dot on the bottom.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have known that. So he said, "That guy's going to come back and beat you up." So we decided to follow my directions. And that's exactly where the courthouse was.
So how do you know this? How did you know?
Turns out I lived there in the 1880s. I did a past life regression. I was a miner. I had a dog. I lived in a wooden shack. That's how I know.
Wow.
So that was insane.
So that's a whole nother show, Rob.
Yeah.
Past life stuff.
Yeah, because my husband had one in Ireland.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
But I know we're running out of time, but I went back to the Birdcage Theater in 2019 with a friend of mine that he lives in Phoenix, never had been to the Birdcage Theater, never been to Tombstone, didn't know if he believed in ghosts. I had befriended the owner of the Birdcage Theater in 1993 and had been writing to him and his wife ever since, back and forth. Never said anything about ghosts because the first time I went there, my abilities weren't out. So they weren't developed. So the Birdcage now offers ghost tours. So I said to, it was my husband's friend. I said, my husband's friend, "Let's go down to Tombstone and take the ghost tour." And he's like, "All right, whatever. I don't really think I believe in ghosts." Long story short, we ran into 11 ghosts that night. He saw 2 of them.
Oh, wow.
I sketched a whole bunch of them. I was able to prove every single one of them with the tour guide.
Wow.
And they're all in the book, The Ghost of the Birdcage Theater on a Medium's Vacation. And I sketched them like this guy. I went down the basement and I got shot in the chest against the wall, and I actually fell against the wall because I feel the pain of death.
Yeah.
And the tour guide came up to me and said, "Are you okay? Are you having like a seizure?" And I said, "No." I said, I'm a medium. There was a ghost here. He was shot in the chest right here. And she said, "Yeah, he was cheating at cards and he was running up the stairs."
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a crazy cool book. And that's filled with 11 ghosts that I met.
So I guess the friend believed in ghosts after the visit.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you real quick before as we kind of running low on time here, you have one that was just published. What do you have? Do you have anything planned for next?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to get through this one.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah.
So I have 7 books in the works. One is Ghost of Scotland on a Medium's Vacation. ghost of the East Coast on the U.S. East Coast on the medium's vacation. I have another Pets book that's actually already written, but I'm waiting to issue it because Pets 4 just came out 2 years ago.
Okay.
I have another Case Files Inspired Ghost Tracking book in the works. I've got a whole bunch of things. But in the near term, I teach paranormal courses in Northern New England, Tuesdays and Thursday nights in adult education. I do fundraising lectures for animal rescues that I don't charge them anything. They charge, and they take all the money to give to the rescue to help the dogs and cats.
Nice.
And I help grieving pet parents understand how pets communicate from the other side. So,
And where can people find you, your services, and your books?
they can find me at robgutro.com, or if they can't spell my last name, they can go to petspirits.com. It goes to the same place.
Okay. And that link is shared up at the top on Twitch. And it'll be.
All my books are on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook.
Oh, awesome.
Excellent. Yeah, and for those listening, robgutro.com, that's ROBGUTRO.com. And also you're over on Facebook. I mean, on Facebook, but YouTube. So you can go find Rob over on YouTube as well. Once again, Rob Gutro, ROBGUTRO. All that information will be listed down below. If you're over on YouTube or listening to us on a podcast, I'll have all the links down there below, so you can go find Rob. See if you can get in that waiting list for a pet mediumship reading, or be able to go find and purchase one of the books and go check it out. Thank you so much.
Unless your pet was a snake, then don't even try.
Or a spider. Yeah.
You better find somebody else.
For sure.
CMC want to know where you're based. Northeast?
The Northeast. Yeah, I'm in Maine. I decided to retire from meteorology and moved up here, where it's nice and cool in the summertime.
Yeah.
And it's nice and quiet, and you can actually see the stars, and there's no pollution.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, we were talking just for the show. He's up there at the same place where my dad is. So there's pretty close anyway. So
yeah,
just don't mind the 5 below wind chills right now.
Yeah, stay inside.
Well, I was telling you before the show, we're in for for us Virginians, we're in for a doozy tomorrow. We got a snowstorm coming in, and right now they got us in the 4 to 6 inch range.
Yep.
So we're for us, that's like we were talking before. We had gone 2 years in a row without any recorded snow. Richmond had said we had gone 1,000 days without any recorded snow in Richmond.
Wow.
So for us to get 2 back to back here, we're not going to know what to do. As you can tell, our internet didn't know what to do tonight. So we will.
Just FYI, I am a meteorologist. You are under a winter storm watch from Friday evening through Saturday afternoon, with heavy snow possible between 2 to 4 inches.
Yeah.
There we go.
Friday evening.
There we go.
Meteorologist Rob has let us know. The official.
There we go. So we got that going on. I wanted to thank everyone for coming in tonight. For all of you who are listening at another time and another place, thank you for joining us, and we will see you all next time. And for everyone who's still hanging out with us over in YouTube or in Twitch chat, let's go see who we can find to raid tonight.
A lot of people on.
And I was going to say, I'm going to come out with our February schedule here soon, because we already have February. We have a lot of great guests coming on. I did want to say, because we got our Twitch people here now, we are going to talk to, well, I knew him originally as Cosmic Unwind, but we're going to have Guru with the Net. So we're going to love your damn self.
He's coming on finally. We've been trying to get that man on here for 3 years.
And actually, he's on right now. So how about we just go ahead and go rate him?
Is he? Oh, yeah. Mystic Village.
Yeah, Mystic Village. So we'll go do that. Thanks, everyone, for coming and hanging out tonight. Thank you for the questions. It's so great to have you guys. Always looking forward to seeing you guys. Jenny is going to be live tomorrow, right? That's the plan.
As long as the internet
holds out. So come get your medium readings and tarot readings and all that tomorrow over on Medium Jenny Lee's channel. And I guess she'll be doing them as she watches it snow and out the back window there. So
Snowing out the window. Yeah.
yeah, we'll have a maybe a magical Friday evening. So
Yeah.
there we go. All right, let's go
All right, so we're gonna
to
rate
Mystic
Mystic
Village.
Village. Yay. Medium readings and snow shovelings. Yep.
Okay, off we go. We'll be back next Thursday. We're going to talk to James Rink, so we're going to do some black government projects and super soldiers.
Get your
We'll talk to you.
hats out.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye. And